good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. From the whole of the Root and Branch team, I really want to offer you the warmest welcome to this event in our Breaking the Silence series of talks. Yes, silence is golden. We've all heard the song. Silence has much to teach us. We are all familiar with silent prayer. It can bring us great experiential moments of peace and awareness. But this is a chosen silence. But it's a very different story when silence is imposed. From Sigmund Freud to present-day mental health professionals, all of them tell us that we are made to connect with each other. We are made to relate, and we are made to share with other human beings what is inside us. Deny us this right, and we are moving into dangerous mental health areas. We want and we need to tell our stories. So what does it mean, and how does it feel to be silenced? Many of us here now will have experienced that. I have. And if you have, I ask you now to remind yourself of how that feels inside to be silenced. It is a burden that stifles our God-given spirit and our personal growth and our personal authenticity. But the truth is that every voice matters and every story deserves to be told. So why would anyone wish to silence anyone else? And worst of all, why would a church that stands for the truth wish to silence anyone? But we know that it does. In not allowing others to speak indicates a fear, but just what are they afraid of? Examples of those being silenced, as we all know, include Galileo, Hanscom, Oscar Romero. And recently at a Root and Branch event, we heard from Maris priest Sean Fagan, who was silenced. The silencing of good, committed, creative people continues to the present day. So where do we go when the Catholic institution decides to silence us? Where do we go? Do we listen to that voice inside? That voice where God speaks to us? That voice of authenticity? Or do we listen to the institution that tells us to be quiet and backs it up with dogmas, canon laws, and even legal guiding orders? But yet that voice inside us wants to speak out. Have you ever felt that dilemma, being told to be quiet, to be silenced, but still wanting to speak? I have, often. So at this event, we're going to hear from two brave people, Anna and Brian, who trusted that inner voice, a voice from God, as how else does God speak to us? Two people who, in the face of much institutional opposition, decided to speak out. This was at great cost, but just tell me, who can put a price on personal authenticity? And what is the price tag on a God-given voice inside us that should never be silenced? So as Anna and Brian have done, let us too break the silence and continue to speak our truth. And finally, before I hand over, I just want to say this evening we will be talking about grave power abuse in the Catholic Church, and we're aware that what is shared here could be distressing to many of us. In particular, we are conscious of the fact that the impact of the discussion might have on people who may be survivors of church-related abuse or other forms of abuse. Our earlier talks resulted in some survivors looking for support and some who disclosed their abuse for the first time. So first of all, if anybody wishes to keep their identity private, do please give yourself a different name and turn off your camera. And we also be mindful that there may be people here who don't want to disclose where they're based. So we won't be asking questions like, which diocese are you from, or where are you located? So your well-being is our first concern over the next couple of hours. Please take care of yourself, see it as your first priority, and please think about just leaving the talk if that's what you think is best for you. So I'll now hand over to Mary Rain for the opening prayer. Mary.
Thank you, Kevin. We remember and pray for those who have been silenced, whose spirits have been broken by shame and exclusion. We pray that their wounds may find healing and that their voices may be restored and spirits renewed by knowing that they are still valued and loved. We pray especially for Anna and Brian, who in the face of adversity and injustice have found the courage to speak their truth and who are bravely willing to come and share their stories with us today. Amen.
Thank you, Mary. Anna's with us from Chile and Brian's with us from Scotland. And Anna's story comes with a health warning. You'll hear about joy, selfless care, but you'll also hear much that's upsetting. And Kevin has already underlined how much we want you to take care of yourselves this evening. So I'd like now to introduce Anna and Brian. Anna, it's been a delight and a pleasure to get to know you. You grew up in communist China in a strongly Catholic family, living in a rural area. And you've told me that as an idealistic young woman of 20, you entered the Missionaries of Charity in 1992. And you stayed there for the next 27 years. Your formation as a sister took place in Poland and a little of it in Rome. From 1997, you were sent to South America without a word of Spanish. That must have been really tough. But you've worked in Argentina and Chile, and you've also visited India. As well as children with disabilities, you've worked with older people, people addicted to alcohol, abandoned children, children with neurological difficulties, and young adults suffering from AIDS. Kevin, could you show slide 4, please?
Yes.
Thank you. This, folks, you may have seen this already, but this is Anna in 2011 in Chile. At the time, Anna was a superior of a home for children with neurological disabilities, and the baby that quite rightly we don't see was going to be placed for adoption. And this picture was taken on the day that the adoptive parents got married. Thanks, Kevin, if you would now take that, yeah. In 2019, Anna, you asked to live outside of the order, and in 2022, you were given a dispensation from your vows. And since that time, you've stayed in Chile. Can we show slide 5, please? You've been in Chile studying to become a nurse, and you've been undertaking the psychological work that you needed. And these were your words to me, to be deprogrammed from a religious life full of anxiety and guilt, and to build a new life that isn't dominated by fear and guilt. And you're most welcome. Now let's introduce Brian. Brian's a very good friend of Root and Branch, and we've worked closely together, haven't we, on our Stolen Lives project. You might remember, folks, that in 2022, Brian shared his story of clerical abuse that he experienced whilst at Drygrange Seminary in Scotland at the hands of the then rector, who was Keith O'Brien, later Cardinal Keith O'Brien. And Brian, you were ordained in March 1985, gosh, coming up to 40 years, yeah? But you took the very painful decision to leave the priesthood when Keith O'Brien became your Archbishop. And later you spent many years along with 3 other priests who were victims also of Keith O'Brien, trying to report his sexually predatory behaviour and his spiritually abusive behaviour to church authorities. An experience that you say in your book was both bewildering and intimidating. In 2013, Keith O'Brien was getting ready to go to the conclave in Rome that elected Pope Francis. At that point, without any other recourse, you all took that brave decision to go public with your story. And at that time, someone wrote that telling your story highlighted probably, this is a quote, the gravest public crisis to hit the Catholic Church in Scotland since the Reformation. We can read about Brian's experiences in the book he published in 2021, Cardinal Sin. Post-priesthood, you've had a very successful career, you would agree with me, wouldn't you, Brian? In the Scottish Health Service with people who misuse drugs, as an advocate for people who were suffering from AIDS. And when you retired, you were a director of media and public relations. And Brian, using his experience, is going to have a conversation with Anna about her experience. But they want me to add 1 or 2 other things at this point. I think most of us by now are aware of the massive controversy surrounding the complex personality and practices of Agnes Gonju-Boyaggio, Mother Teresa, Saint Teresa of Calcutta. People are certainly polarized in the views of her work. Was it holiness, kindness, selfless service that merited a Nobel Peace Prize? Or was it a defense of priest abusers, abusive caring and medical practices, and the controversies surrounding the way in which over $100 million that she raised, deposited in the Vatican Bank, was used? Anna wants to leave us to make up our own minds about what her story tells us about the personality and cult of her religious superior. How far there was gender-based violence in the order, and how far the order might have been manipulated by the institutional church. However, my last point, Mother Teresa died in 1996, and Anna joined the order in 1992. So what you're going to hear about is a culture that survived the founder, and it continues to this day under Mother Teresa's former secretary, who is now superior. We're going to have questions and comments via the chat, please, this evening. We'll do our best to ask as many of them as we can, but do please add your questions as Brian and Anna continue the conversation. So now over to you, Brian and Anna.
Thank you, Mary. Anna, you might want to unmute yourself. And welcome, one and all. Anna, greetings from Scotland to you over in Chile.
Hello, do you hear me? Do you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you loud and clear. So with that introduction, I think we should just get started on our conversation. As Mary said, you were a young woman, 19, 20 years of age, when you felt called to religious life. Could you perhaps give me an idea, what was it about Mother Teresa's order in particular that attracted you?
Thank you so much for this space of sharing, and thank you for the listening. It's a great that someone listened, really. Before I share anything of my personal experience, I would like to clarify that my sharing of my story, it's not an attack of Mother Teresa's congregation, neither of Mother Teresa. I share my story because I feel I need to do it. There is something that it's inside of me that I have to say it, because I want to show, and my intention is to show that the consecrated life and the rules vulnerate people and lead them to lose their identity. So I want to speak about the structure and that is beneficial to the institution. And it's my personal choice, it's my experience, and it should not be taken as a criticizing or judging the society, as many people can see it, no? I wanted to just make clear at this point.
Thank you for that. So what brought you in there in the first place, Anna?
Sorry?
What brought you to Mother Teresa's order in the first place?
I grew in communist country in Czechoslovakia, as Mary said, and there was a young priest who came to our village, and he started to attract us to this, or immerse us to this religious spirit. And I remember once I asked him, why are you so happy? I did not understand. And then he told me, to belong to Jesus brings so much happiness. So when the border opened and the communist regime fell, a mother was allowed to enter the Slovakia. She opened the house. And then I saw this old woman that I saw her very genuinely taking care of the poor people. And since I was already having this a seed of looking for happiness, of giving myself, I saw the best way to do it there. I mean, she answered my desire of serving the needy and the vulnerable. I mean, I was always attracted to take care of the vulnerable people, and she was absolute, like, for me. Yeah, I saw it, and I was sure that was the place I wanted to be. Yeah.
That's yeah, that rings very true to me as well in my entry into the priesthood, and in my seminary days back in whenever it was 1978, we had as part of our formation what were called 4 pillars of formation in the priesthood. One was the academic pillar, another was pastoral pillar, another was the spiritual formation, and the last one was human development. Now, I can't say that they were all looked after in my day at all. They weren't. But what was the culture of formation in the missionaries of charity?
Formation, I cannot make so much difference between the human formation and academic formation and pastoral formation. We just enter inside and we were there. I mean, from the first day we were clear what we should and what we shouldn't, and all our formation was given by the mistress. Now, when I'm looking back to it, I really realized that how dangerous it was. No, the mistress was there to give us all the knowledge that we needed, and she was there 24 hours and 7 days in the week, and she was teaching us and explaining to us the rules of the society. And we never went for the study, for example, outside. We were all having explained inside of the convent, and if the priests were coming, they were very much revised by the superior of the community. I mean, they have to know what priest was coming. So, and from the first day, we were kind of formed in the image of the missionaries of charity I even don't know how to explain, because when you are young,
Yeah.
you just don't mind. I mean, they can cut you in pieces and you will accept that everything. So whatever they told us, even it was painful, like going home every 10 years, everything the way,
Every 10
yes,
years.
every 10 years, having no friends. I mean, we were cut from the relationship from outside. We knew we couldn't speak with outsiders. Whatever problem we had, whatever difficulty, anxiety, we were all connecting it with our mistress, who had the answer for everything and who was for us. Mother told us we should be open book, and she was the will of God for us, no? And I think there started the problem.
Okay, so you used the word danger earlier on, and already I'm getting a sense from not just what you're saying, but how you're saying it, that danger was very real and very present, because it was a very enclosed experience, wasn't it?
Very enclosed. And for example, I remember they used to tell us to bring 3 of that, 3 of these, 3 of these. And from these 3, for example, there was, okay, you would bring 1 pair of shoes, 1 pair of sandals. And I brought my sandals, and I was taken away my sandals because they were too nice. So it was everything already molded on the image of being a MC. And
missionary. Yeah. So let's bore into this a little bit and get into some more detail. I'd be very interested, and I think people listening would be interested in just what the living conditions were like for the religious sisters in the order. You know, on a daily basis, how did you look after yourself? How did you eat? How did you sleep? What time did you have for yourselves?
From the formation and also after as a junior sister, which is also continuing formation, we have a schedule that is told from the 4:40 in the morning till the 10 o'clock in the night. There is no space, and we were formed like that, no? 4:40 you get up, you jump from the bed and you pray. I mean, Mother put in every minute of the day intention, because we were there to save souls. So everything had a meaning and was directed to this. Get up 4:40 in the morning, jump from the bed and pray, and going to the chapel and pray, and putting your sari and pray. And then you start to pray 5 o'clock, then you finish 6 o'clock and you go and have a breakfast. And even the way you put yourself in, and even you have to take glass of water. I mean, in the day, there is everything told what you should do. There is nothing you can choose. Maybe you can choose because you have a human need and you have to ask permission to go to the resting room. But for example, you cannot go and lie in the bed out of time. You have to ask permission. And all these things were very much inside and engraved in us. And also when, for example, once a month we go to our mistress and we speak our faults. It's a fault that you ask, because since you have nothing, you are already prepared to be poor and take the vow of poverty. So you have nothing. So you kneel down and you ask permission for bathing, for eating, for taking medicine, for driving the car, for speaking with outsider. Or if you speak and it is without permission, you have to speak the fault that you did it and how long.
And what happened if you hadn't asked permission?
I mean, you have to kneel down, speak the fault, and kiss the floor, and the mistress, in her benevolence, will give you some penance. Whatever to do it, no? And so from that moment already you start to be, because if you know that the superior is the will of God for you, so when you don't do something or you do something hidingly, you feel absolutely guilty. And finally, on the end, you say everything. It's not.
I mean, I'll come on to my thoughts about that in a minute, but just in terms of mundane things, like, did you have places you could go to be on your own for a little while? What was the food like? How did all that, these sorts of practical?
all the food and the way of living was Indian. Our way of living is in Indian style. So we, for example, live in the common dormitory. We eat in the common dormitory. We eat in the common refectory. We bathe without water coming from the top. We just have a bucket of water. All these things, and the food was served for us. The mistress many times told us how much to eat, because the appetite was the sign of vocation. So more you eat, better vocation you have. And in Poland, when I was, our mistress is very zealous in spiritual life, and we were not having much of meat and the fruit, and we were living on donations that time. Really, it was very, I mean, we have no fridge, so the meat was, or the sausages were put in the cold water, you know, and I mean, very, very simple, and I don't know what kind of way of
Yeah.
but all these things made us vulnerable, and I got sick. I got sick in Poland.
I want to come on to that, Anna, just in the next question. Actually, you've led into that very nicely, because given those conditions, it's quite obvious to me that they're very extreme, and there's no doubt that sisters would have had times when they fell into ill health, given that sort of regime. And you said to me one time that you yourself nearly died because of the conditions that you were living in. You were certainly very, very seriously ill. How did the sick sisters, the sisters who were ill, how were they taken care of? How were they viewed in the congregation?
You asked me how much time we had for ourselves. We had 1 hour in a week that we could choose what to do. It was on Thursday, 1 hour in the week that we could choose to be in our compound and to go this side or this side, but usually we outside, we never go by ourselves. And the sick sisters, I mean, one example for me, I got sick, and first they didn't believe. They told me that I'm pretending, but once the x-ray came that I was really sick, they took me to the hospital. But the thing is that they were so nice, the sisters and my superior. They took me to the hospital, but they didn't want to pay for me in the hospital because they said that the money is for the poor. So there was always this kind of a struggle of the sisters that money given for us is for the poor. And then the sisters, okay, we beg. So they went to the director of the hospital and they asked for the discount or for not paying for me. And I was having tuberculosis advanced. And myself, as a sick person, I was feeling very much guilty for being sick, even though I got sick because of lack of meat, because of extreme hours of working and not having enough rest. But there is this kind of a, you know, and when I was sick, the sisters, my companions, were jealous because I got sick, because they told that the saints got sick. The little flower got tuberculosis, and Maximilian Kolbe got tuberculosis, and Saint Faustina. So I was between a hero and myself miserable because the sisters has to spend money for me for the treatment. So already that time, I was already having my guilt that was already impact on me because of the structure, because of whatever I lived. I was always taught that the suffering and everything was for Jesus and for the poor. So
sorry, and I don't mean to interrupt you, but would you say that treatment was sometimes withheld from sisters, was taken away from sisters because the money was not being used for the poor, as you said?
It was in my time when I was sick in 95, Mother was still alive, and Mother was in her glory of being famous. I cannot even tell you how much money we had, and we had. So if the sisters were begging, it was not right. But I did not know, because I got a message we had no money, but I know we had a lot of money now. But there was no problem with the money. There is the problem of that charism of sacrificing. And in India, I have telling you the story of another video that the sisters were having kidney problem, and sister who was in general that time, she told them to not to go for dialysis because Jesus was asking them to offer it, because the money was for the poor. And I say, okay, again, why they don't send them here to Chile? We have a treatment without, but we have no assurance. We have no medical assurance. And in India, it's very expensive. So there was always a desire or at the point of offering, of giving up, of giving all for Jesus, because Jesus was as if counting on us. And we are there for satiating his thirst and saving souls.
And I think people will be, to say surprised, will be to underplay it, but that sounds to me to be cruel, and it sounds to me to be deeply unchristian in a way of dealing with people. But I want to touch on something that you touched on there towards the end, and that is this. It seems like a fascination, this glorification of suffering within the order, that seems to me to have been a major issue, that this acceptance, the seeking out of suffering, was something that you were led into and was part of the organizational structure or the culture of the organization.
I mean, from the beginning, we were told that the consecrated life is always a higher calling. And if it is higher calling, it has to be real and more suffering, more giving up. It's as if this sacrifice of being consecrated is better. It's more valuable. And also, I was in formation during the John Paul II as a pope. So Mother was a very good friend of John Paul II, and there is this kind of always the life of priest and the nun was kind of a superior to the lay people in there. Or maybe they don't say it, but we were formed and told, and we were kind of having a special call. We were special people. And the MC, okay, I even maybe if somebody from Missionaries of Charity listened to me, they cannot say it's not true. I mean, we always felt we were an elite of the religious life, and the church, sorry, makes the marketing with us because we are so nice, and we are just because we do much charity and we do charity, and inside we offer. We just offer or destroy ourselves. I don't know what to call it, but it's this. Like that.
And that destruction of yourself, that offering of yourself, the sacrifice of yourself, is something that I think pains a lot of people and will be paining a lot of people. Can you tell me about the use of, I think it's called the discipline? What's the discipline, and can you explain that for us, and what the discipline was and how it was used and what it was meant to solve?
No, it's a pre-Vatican thing. Mother was never ashamed of saying that we do the corporal penances. We beg the food once a month, kneeling, and we eat kneeling, and all this kissing of floor. It's a humiliation and asking to be humble, and this, the chains, this arm chain and the waist chain, it's a kind of a safeguarding for our chastity. It's not only this, it's
the chain that you put around your stomach and your arm. Is that right? Okay,
because we put it in the waist, and for a woman, I suppose it was connected with the chastity that we avoid the temptation, being faithful to our chain and to our discipline, and also. We had a way to sleep in the bed, for example, to avoid temptation. There was a way to bathe in the bathroom to avoid temptation. We were having a way to go out on the street to avoid temptation, to always going 2 by 2. And we were not allowed to speak with the men alone or to have a conversation with the priest without permission. So there was absolute safeguarding of our perfection. Our superiors were very good in watching over that.
I mean, I feel so it just. What did it feel like? This chain, was it painful?
The first time when I put it, it was, already you have a lot of clothes, this like a onion, you have a lot of habit, and you have a chemise, and you have this 5 meters long sari. So it's a good material. And then you have this chain, but all this habit and all these things, you have to put the rope to tie it. So when you put the chain on your body, this rope tightens you. And I remember, since we have an Indian custom of bowing down, so you put the chain and you bow down, and then you stayed up. And I remember I was red like a tomato because it was so painful. It was for the first time, and I did not know what it was about. So yeah, we had this ceremony of cutting our hair completely and putting the chain, and there was an introduction to the novitiate to start the way of perfection and to learn, start to offer. No, I mean, the way of our life is much about offering and giving up.
I feel that the concentration, I'll call it the fetishization of suffering, is extremely unhealthy. But I guess if you're living it, that's the way it is, isn't it? You just become accustomed to it as the months and years go by.
You become accustomed, and not only accustomed, you see, I was sick. I was in the hospital for 2 months. And when I came back from the hospital, my community, my group, they got the chain, but I didn't get it because I was in the hospital. So, and I was so much formed and told about how beautiful and how much it is needed for perfection, that I went to my mistress and I was just asking her to give it to me. And she told me, no, you are sick. And I said, no, I want to be faithful. I want to be chaste. And
yeah, I hear you. And I think people, although it sounds, if you've not lived that sort of life, it does sound really
stupid.
well, yes, stupid maybe, but certainly abnormal and very, very, to me, cruel, to me, incomprehensible. But as I say, you were young at the time, and that was, and it was a very strict regime, as you've already outlined. I can't help but come to the conclusion, and maybe I'm wrong, I can't help but come to the conclusion that you were living in a cult, that you had a very, very strong superior figure who dominated absolutely everything. Every moment and second of your life was accounted for. You had, let's face it, no time really to yourself at all. And it was a very, very controlled environment. And maybe you don't agree with the word cult, but I'd be interested to see how you react to it.
Yeah, for me, it's very strong word, the cult. And if I could be today inside of the community, I would never accept this. But my superior was given by me, but was given to me by Mother Teresa. Mother Teresa told me, the superior can make mistake in decision, but you never make mistake in obeying. So she was absolutely will of God for me. And Mother told us, it's not she or her you obey. I mean, you obey Jesus Christ. So how can you go against someone who has God on his side? It's not easy to
no.
And the cult and about the suffering. You see, when I was in Calcutta, I went to Mother House in the chapel, and then in the chapel, it was so hot, summertime. You can imagine India, very, very hot. The sisters with lots of this cloth because the sari, it's so long and you have to give. And the volunteers were on one side, and the sisters and the And the novices were on the other side, and the novices are with the hair. The Indian novices have plenty of hair, thick hair, beautiful hair, but in the heat, it's really disturbing because it's heating you more.
Mm.
You are in this chapel and you look and you see that the volunteers are having fans. They are having things to air up because of the heat. But the
Mm.
sisters who have 3 times more clothes on themselves, they don't have fun because they are there to offer up.
Yeah.
And so these people, the volunteers, they will not look at us as a cultish people, but they will look at us as a people who suffer, who offer for Jesus. And why? Because after the mass, they go with the sisters and they go to the slum and they go to the poor people, and the joy of taking the people from the street or bathing one man who never took bath in 1 year, it's very difficult to call it cult because there is a lot of charity done even today. I mean,
Yeah.
so you cannot connect these two and you just reject that word.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I know the answer to this, but as you spent more time in the order, you clearly started to have questions about your life and the value of this sort of lifestyle. As I say, I think I know the answer to this. Was there anyone that you could speak to confidentially about your concerns or your worries or the anxiety that you had about the way that the life was being lived and your experience in it? Was there anyone that you could talk to?
I was here in Chile and to ask somebody to talk to accept our superior, you need her permission. And I remember here in Chile, I asked my superior to speak with a priest because I really needed to, you have a superior who is your spiritual director and she's always there. I mean, she's there and there and there. You cannot get rid of her. And it's not because you don't want to obey her, but it's not healthy. It's humanly unhealthy. If you don't have your space, if you don't have the time, and you are still with someone who is always on the top of you. So I asked her to speak with the priest, and she told me, oh, yes, because she knows she has to give me permission. But when I finished speaking with the priest, she caught me and she took me aside and she told me, and then what did he say? So I said to her, that's what I didn't want to tell you.
Right.
I had some kind of always, but she was very upset. I mean, if we are not open and have no confidence in your superior, you are passing bad time.
Yeah.
You can, and then I myself was a superior. Maybe you wanted to get to that. I was also here in Chile.
Yeah.
And then maybe it was very in international news. Maybe the first time here in Chile, happened this abuse, sexual abuse, that the priest sexually abused young people. Yeah. Okay, and then because we are speaking English and we are having masses in English, the priests who were abused by this priest were coming to my community. And since I was a superior, I have a kind of freedom to be more in conversation without telling to someone in my community, and I could share. And so when I spoke with the priest about what it is, this spiritual abuse, because how can you speak about spiritual abuse? We have a vow of obedience. I mean, doesn't make sense, doesn't go together, these two things. And so he told me about this high controlling man who on the end abused the people, and nobody knew that because he was having everybody structured and he promised them to be saints. And so I think I got shocked because I saw Karadima everywhere. I couldn't deny something that was completely wrong, and I never heard about sisters sexually abused sisters, but the spiritual abuse, once I understood what it was, I knew in our society there is no line, there is no limits of abuse of power and spiritual abuse and vow of obedience.
You you shocked me when you told me that your superior was also your spiritual director.
Yeah.
I wasn't aware of that. So there's no, in modern language, we would, I guess, call it an independent, safeguarding sort of person. You're the person who you might have had most problems with, your superior, because people very often do have problems with the person who's above them. She was the person that you would have to go to, and you would never be able to divulge, sister, I've got real problems with the way that you're treating me.
I suppose it was again a way of perfection, to be humble and to speak with someone you don't want,
Yeah,
because you have no other chance to go to lay people, because we were forbidden to go to lay people and to share
Yeah.
out. First, we had no time. Apostolate was for working. And second, because if you do speak, you have to after speak your faults, so finally she will get to know.
So we've got to keep an eye on the clock because other people want to talk to you, Anna. But eventually you decided that you had to leave the order. I remember the day that I left the priesthood, and it was like doors slamming shut. You suddenly became an outsider. You became a threat. You became someone who had betrayed the organization. So I want to ask you a question, but it's a question in three parts. The first part is, why did you leave? You don't have to remember this. I'll remind you. Why did you leave? Secondly, what have you found the hardest after you've left? And thirdly, if you hadn't left, what do you think would have happened to you? So I know these are really difficult questions, and you don't have to answer them if you don't want to, but why was there something that we have a saying here, the straw that broke the camel's back, the final thing that said, no, that's it, I've had enough, I've got to get out of here?
Why I left? Because as you remember on the beginning, I said I was drawn in my calling to take care of vulnerable people. It's something with me that I am very sincere and I really want to take care. And if I give my life, I suffer in communism and I am tired of lies. So
Yeah,
I choose the people who are right, who are correct, if not whatever cost, okay. But then when the Karadima appear and all the spiritual abuse, I find out that my superiors were not that much will of God for me as I was told to, and I found my superiors not saying the truth
yeah,
or vulnerating sisters for the sake of the sake of congregation. I went to Calcutta and I know that the sisters, Superior General, didn't took the sisters to the hospital because she wanted to suicide because mother was going to be canonized. It will be a case.
wow,
The sister she hung herself, and we were not told that she suicide. We were told she died. The day before she was happy. She was in the recreation sharing things. So I said, if we don't take of the vulnerable people who are inside of our communities,
yeah,
how can we pretend to help people
yeah,
outside?
absolutely,
Yeah, and so I was so disappointed already, and with Karadima, with that spiritual abuse, I find out that it was everywhere. The abuse, even the rules are abusive. Need. I think Jesus doesn't go with the paper to check how much sacrifices you are counting. Like we do. We have a strength of little pieces to count. I did this sacrifice, I did this and did this, and how much, and then more holier you are, when more sacrifices you are.
like
Or,
it's like an accountancy process rather
yeah,
than a
yeah,
spiritual
like
process.
something like this, and we
Yeah.
count.
So you left the order because of all that was going on, and it's very clear why you had to do that. And you remind me, although my situation was far, far less painful and traumatic than yours, is that you do come to a time when you have to say, no, I've got to do what is the right thing rather than just live. But it's a very difficult thing to do. So what have you found to be the hardest thing since you left the order? You're trained to be a nurse now, but what was the hardest thing, would you say? Was it?
No, it is. I mean, I did not know it was so difficult. I came out and they gave me $500, and I came out, and still when I came out, they sent behind me a letter that I am exclaustrated nun, and they requested to inform me how I am using my money that I am earning. I first of all, I didn't get the work, and already I was told to give the account for what I'm spending the money, because they were taking care of my vow of poverty. But I came out and I was shocked, because it was a kind of I really did not know I was deformed or psychologically vulnerable.
Yeah.
I came out, I did not know how to walk on the street alone.
Yeah.
I took out my habit with a little time. I didn't take it suddenly, but I was thinking, not that people will, I thought I had nobody, because my identity was missionaries of charity. So when I took it habit away, there nothing was left over, I really did not know who I am. And also we take the name, we take the religious name. So when the people were calling me, I did not know whom they were calling. I did not know I was Damiana, I was Anna, I was sister, and why didn't they call me sister? I have no habit. Well, no, I finally I had to go for psychological and psychiatric help, because there was no, I couldn't put myself together. I did not know who I was, really.
That is a very strong feeling for me, looking back as well. I wasn't in the priesthood nearly as long as you were in the order, but even in my time, your identity is so tied up with being a priest, a religious sister, wearing your habit, wearing your clerical clothes, and so on. So maybe this is the hardest question of all to answer, Anna. If you hadn't left, what do you think would have happened to you?
I don't know. But I only was observing. When I became sensitive for the spiritual abuse, I became an observer in my last time of being there, and there was this painful experience of having a retreat, and the young priest of missionary of charity priest came to give the retreat for the sisters who were old, who are already 60, 70, and maybe they are not superior. They are sisters who gave all their life to the society. And this young priest, was thinking he's going to give a great lecture, and so he gave us vinegar to drink. He gave us a vinegar. And he told, you drink this vinegar and you tell me how terrible it is. And I want to tell you, when you are unfaithful, when you are thinking of going home, that Jesus feels like. It's vinegar, and we drink because we are obedient. I mean, we cannot allow ourselves not to do it. And then when he finished of this vinegar business, he told to the sisters, because maybe he heard some sisters were having difficulty and they were asking to go for home visit before 10 years and whatever difficulty they have. And he told them, you are old and you cannot go home anymore because there is nobody to take care of you. So you are doing a problem and difficulties here, and then your superiors cannot handle you. So you can imagine, you get to the stage of giving yourself to Jesus, and maybe you can have a difficulty to accept because you have no space to canalize your difficulty.
Yeah.
So you become for yourself difficult, and then this young fellow who just started and who was sent by the society telling you, you are making trouble, but there is no way out. You cannot go.
Nobody wants you. We're the only place.
Nobody in your home. Your parents died, and your brothers and sisters are having their own family, and you know that. So you are unbearable here, and you are making problem. That was the solution for this.
Yeah. So it becomes too hard to leave in the end.
it's impossible to
Yeah,
live, and
yeah.
especially when you are of bigger age. I
Yeah.
mean, nobody in their right mind and common sense will do it, because, and mostly the sisters are sick. They are with immune sicknesses, because the structure and the rules and everything. I mean, naturally their nature collapse and reject, and they get sick. So I am 50 years old. I have no problem to say it. And since I keep somehow kind of a mind of talking to myself, if nobody want to listen, so I was only the one in the community that I was kneeling down, because we don't have, and everybody, even younger sisters, has to sit down because they couldn't kneel anymore, because all of them are sick. Everybody is on the medicine.
And this is heartbreaking. I'm
You don't go home easily. No.
yeah, I'm devastated to listen to this. And I know that other people are as well, seeing some of the messages coming through. You're doing a great thing by telling your story. And I know it's painful. And I know that it costs you. So I've got one last question that I want to ask you before we hand over to Mary and the team. If you could go back in time to the young Anna when she was 19, 20 years of age, and you could speak to her, and she was thinking about joining Mother Teresa's Missionaries of Charity, what would you say to young Anna?
Young Anna should have an experience of being vulnerable before entering, because if no, she will fall inside the same trap. I really don't know. I mean, if this conversation will help anybody who wants to join the society, and really to be careful on the red flags, as Doris Wagner says, because we are so naive entering. I really don't know what I would not like she would enter back.
Right. Okay. You would ask her to avoid that choice.
Yeah.
Anna, thank you so much for this little part. This part.
Yes,
When you go, is there anything else that you want to say that we haven't covered?
Yeah, and I wanted, I want to, I laugh because I am so nervous now, because I really, it's so sad and heartbreaking for me to say that, but it's true.
Yeah.
I went to Vatican because when I left, I sent a letter to Holy Father and to the Institute of Consecrated Life. And 5 years passed and nobody answered me. But then when I was going to see my mom after the pandemic finished, one sister, ex-missionary, told me, I have a chance that you go to Consecrated Life to speak with the cardinal who is in charge of the Consecrated Life that time, in Spanish, Monsignor. And I said, okay, let me go. And when I entered there, the Monsignor looked at me and he told me, sister, I know you. You have denounced missionaries of charity. Brian, I am the daughter of the church. I am still believing in Jesus. And I tell Jesus to accompany me if he thinks that I stop to follow him. But the point is that he told me I denounced mission, and I didn't. I showed my pain and I opened, and nobody answered me. So after this shock that I got scared first, I told him, "Oh, really, Monsignor? I didn't denounce. But if you call it that I denounced, then why did you not answer me for this denounce?" And because I know they treat the people who come out as enemies. So I already was not the one who shared my story. I was attacking them. I was denouncing them. And then he said to me, you think how many letters we get every day here? You think it is easy to answer your complaining letter? And so Doris Wagner told me, don't hope for finding some responder. So I started to cry, but Brian, so much, because I told him, I was taught in Slovakia the Vatican and the consecrated life people, it's a last door I can knock.
Yeah.
It's a fortaleza in Spanish. It's something that the rock that I could go because I am a daughter of the church first. And I can go to you and you listen. There is a mother church who takes care of me, of my vocation, and you have no time. For these 30 years that I left the family, I left the country, I work without one penny. I offer my youth to the church. The church has no time for 2 seconds to answer me and tell me, I got your letter, I am praying for you. Is it too hard, Monsignor? And then he was, oh, we did not know. And then listen. And then he started, and then what happened to you? Suddenly he was interested what I am doing. So I said, I had to go for the psychological help. I have no money. And he started to look for 10 euro, 20 euro, and told me, here the letter, sign for me that I gave you this money. And then I said, then he told me, you know, sister, the missionaries of charity are so nice. And for what to look for because we have more letters. You are not only the one who wrote the letter. And
Well,
then and then he said, there is a problem. We have a problem. We don't know what to do between this authority, exercising the authority, and our obedience. Because he told me obedience is the way to sanctity. I already did not know what to tell him, but I said, if you don't know how to solve the problem and balance between the authority and spiritual abuse and obedience, in Chile we have a university who is investigating that. So I can give you the phone number of the priest and you can call him. So he told me, no, give him the email. Don't give him the phone number because you people there in Latin America have a different time and I am always in siesta when you are calling me. So, I didn't cry anymore because
no.
it was useless to look for help there. And I'm
Yeah.
sorry for telling that. I'm
You,
so sorry, but it's true.
you described yourself as a daughter of the church, and really you're a companion with Jesus, and Jesus is walking beside you every step of your way, and that's the important thing. We've many people who are listening to you tonight will be touched and as moved as I am with your story. And Anna, we're all praying for you. We thank you from the bottom of our heart, but we're not finished yet. I'm going to hand over. Thank you, Anna, for also personally for talking to me and trusting me over the last few months.
But I want to tell you that you are all blessed. You are all blessed because you listen to the cry of the poor, and we were the poor people, and we are the poor people first, not the ones we are taking care. And you are listening, and for us it is a big thing.
Thank you, Anna. I'm going to hand over now to Mary Varley to give us some questions from the people who've been watching and listening.
Thank you. Anna, I am speechless. I am so sorry what happened to you and to all the other sisters. And I'm particularly sorry for the ones who just were never able to see it. And I just want to read one or two comments from the chat that I think we'll all benefit from. Someone said, you probably, I think, tune into this, leaving an abusive relationship's very complex, and some people are never able to do it. It's not simply a case of realizing what's happening and choosing to leave. And the other people have said, I absolutely believe this is accurate from other accounts of many sisters who've left the different orders. Power and control corrupts without checks and balances. And someone else said, Anna was right to leave. You don't realize you're being abused when you're in that situation, as it is part of life. Hearing Anna, I can identify. My prioress was my novice mistress, so I had no one to confide in. Thank goodness Anna left. I left too, but only stayed 3 years. But the damage, even after 3 years, and ... So I think you can see, and then one last comment, a huge thank you to you, Anna and Brian, for sharing your experiences in such an honest, humble manner. You didn't deserve to be treated this way. You both have great courage. So that is a little tiny snapshot of what people were thinking and feeling as you were talking. And now I'm going to ask Kevin. Kevin, do you have a question now that you're going to ask on behalf of someone?
Right.
Kevin, you're muted.
Yes, I've got a question after, and even though I am rather speechless after what I've just heard from Anna, my emotions are up and down all over the place when I've heard what Anna has shared. But let's go to the questions. One from Kevin Campbell, who says, did any of the other nuns in the order, sisters in the order, question these practices amongst themselves?
Not long time ago, I got a phone call from the sisters who were my friends, because by 30 years you make friends. And there were sisters that were very kind to me, and I was very, I mean, you need people you love, no? So I did love them so much. And they call me hidingly, because a priest came for the mass and then he gave them cell phone and they called me. But since we love each other, I think they were so hurt that I left. So the only thing that came from them, one of them, they are older than me, they're Indian. And she told me, are you happy now? Are you happy now? And then the other took the phone and she told me, you ran away from the cross. Mother told us to be under the cross and you left, you ran away. Then I told her I didn't. I asked Jesus to accompany me, and I didn't feel I lose him. I continue walking with him. And then suddenly, the bell rang. I could hear in the cell phone the bell rang, and these sisters who are 65 years old, who are the superiors, got scared because the phone rang and they have to go for prayer. And then they have to hide for the higher authority not to see them. They're calling me. So you can take the conclusion. I don't know. We speak about the abuse, but we are so plunged in that we speak to alleviate ourselves, but nobody will leave because it will be a terrible guilt feeling afterwards. And many, as I told you, have nowhere to go. But there is I love the community. I enjoy to be in the community. I'm quite funny creature, so I had so much of lifting up, and my character is of a happy person. So I miss them and they missed me, and we had a hard time to be separated after so many years.
Thank you, Anna.
Ryan, do you want
Okay,
to
thank
add
you, Anna.
anything?
Yes, I've got a question. Thank you. There are so many questions, so many observations. Anna, I do hope when we share this with you, you'll have a look, and Brian as well. Anna, there's a very specific and interesting question here from Ines. What exactly is the role of the MC priests? And it goes on, it seems that they handle everything related to sisters and control every document related to Mother Teresa. Is there spiritual abuse also? So that's a question specifically about the role of the priests,
I
the
really don't
MC
know. I
priests.
mean, they are very, very proud of having a mother, a founder.
Yeah.
But they are few. They are very, very few. They are like 30 of them, and they are helping in parishes, and they are. It's
Right.
kind of separation from us. But yes, there is a Father Brian who have written the book of the spiritual darkness of Mother, and Mother's founding grace, where Mother having a kind of a personal elocution with Jesus, which I don't know really. I mean, it's a personal thing, and we should not follow them because it's quite dangerous, very, very to the extreme going. But I hardly had a contact with the MC priest. They came for the retreat to correct us,
Ah.
to confess our sins and to, I don't know.
Why are we not surprised? Thank you. Thank you for your response. Sue, is there a question? Have you picked up another question in the chat?
Yes. Well, there's some comments that I'd like to make,
Indeed, yeah.
as well as a question for Anna. One of the comments is that somebody from another order, Patricia Mulhall,
Yeah.
was aware of what was going on in your order and got sadder and sadder. And when Mother Teresa was made a saint, it was just really, really very upsetting. And we've seen people quoting Mother Teresa all over the world as if, you know, she is a saint. But the question that was being put recently is, what helps you most, Anna, in your current situation? And how do you look forward to sharing this story in a way that will help others, which you certainly have done, and it will help yourself? Thank you.
First of all, about the Mother Holiness, really, I was maybe blessed by knowing a real mother. I mean, there was 3 months before she died. She came to Rome and we were writing the letter, and Mother was very, very angry with me because I left some line wrong, and she was scolding me right and left just before everybody. And it was to such a point that everybody came to me to see what I did. And I was writing my wallpaper, and it was 3 months before she died. She was extremely angry. Now, the saints can get upset. I know they are real saints, and we are having human saints. But my problem was that I was sent to Argentina, and after 3 months, I heard that Mother died. And I remember I was sleeping in Argentina, the corridor of the old people, and I said, "Can be, Mother died, and they will put her on the altar." And she was scolding me right and left just 3 months ago. And I said, what to do with that experience, no? And my hope and consolation was, okay, I don't now think of, oh, I want to be holy like before. I want to be holy. I mean, no strange person gets on the altar, and Mother is there. So we have hope also. We can be who we are, maybe from this experience that I have. I understood that Jesus was telling me, take it easy, take it easy. And how I am doing now, okay, I am struggling. I went to university because here I don't have, my papers are not valid because there is no agreement between Slovakia and Chile. I didn't go home because I have been living here for many, many years. And my family is very, very beautiful, but so Catholic. Maybe Brian knows what it means.
Yeah, very much so.
I'm always afraid. I am. It loses now this intensity, but I always afraid of my family always asking me, "But why did you leave?" It's so difficult to explain to them. They are living in that church, that I don't know, structure. So they always believe the consecrated are better, they are superior than, and I am happy to be lay person. I feel so free. I really think that I was so complicated because I was consecrated, I had habit, I was, now I am free. I reached to that freedom that I am so happy not to be consecrated. And I am working now, for example, here in Latin America, it's a big holidays. So I do whatever I can. I take care of old people, but they are not poor. They are rich. They are rich people, so they can pay me so I can survive. And they are vulnerable as much as the poor people, because when they are sick and when you are sick, you are always vulnerable. There is no difference. I make a babysitter. I make the biscuits. I managed to. I struggle. That's the word.
Yeah.
And I believe that once I finish university, I will be still having some few years before pension, and I will be able to little bit. There was a nun here that I went to ask her for help. And I told her, you are a religious congregation. I know you help, so I need help. And then I said, you know, for me it's difficult. I still have no papers and I am struggling. And you know what she gave me? She told me, you know, we have immigrants working in our community. And you know how they got the paper? They got married with the Chilean people. So that was a solution, to get married. So anybody here want to marry me? You know, I just make fun of everything. And then I went to another parish and I asked for help. They are a religious community. And they gave me 2 kilo of rice, 2 kilo of flour, 2 kilo of sugar, and 1 bottle of oil. No, it's sad because I was a religious and I was helping poor people. But if they respect so much a religious when they have a dress, why they don't respect the religious when they take it off? It's the same person. It's not a habit that make a change, you know.
Yeah.
Thank you, Anna.
Thank you very
Brian,
much, Anna.
Do you want to add anything to that, Brian, before I ask our last question? The time has flown.
No, I'm happy for you to carry on, Mary.
Yeah, this came in before, Anna. What can we do, all of us who are here listening to your story, what can we do to make the depth and the extent of abuse that's happening to religious sisters known to ordinary Catholics? And that might be something you want to reply to as well. You know, how can we let people know what's really going on? We've got a responsibility as well.
It's very difficult question for me. I mean, everybody in their
Mm.
conscience can answer this question, and something so personal. But for me, I let you know what is happening, and that you know what it is. And maybe it's not happening in all the society and in all congregation, but okay, you. Sometimes when my family tells we give the money for the missionaries, I tell them don't give the money. I tell them don't give any more money, because the money is not, I don't know where they end up, because finally.
I can answer for Anna, but I can answer from having left the priesthood and having had nearly 40 years to reflect on it. The first thing I would say is what Anna talked about when I asked her if she hadn't left, what might have happened to her. And I can see in religious life, in all its shapes and forms, that there are people for whom the time has passed for them to leave, and it's harder, it's easier for them to stay than it is for them to leave. But I do think that there is something that we need to campaign for, and root and branch, as Anna said, is the ideal name for what we need to be thinking about here. I don't think there's been any thought given, any serious thought given to what happens to priests, religious sisters, religious brothers who have to leave and who are following their vocation to leave, actually. It's not that they've failed, it's this that their vocation has taken them into another area. And I think that we can't rely, as Anna went to the Vatican, went to the highest authorities, we can't rely on the highest authorities in the Vatican to help. They won't help us. But I do think that there has to be more discussion, more research, more discussion like this about the reality of life for people who have had to leave religious life in all its forms. I don't have an answer to what that might look like, but I do think there is something to grasp hold of here, root and branch. This is an important but very, very unresearched area. So perhaps it's something that we can come back to. I know that I feel very strongly about it, and I know that Anna does as well, and there will be other priests and religious sisters and religious brothers who are in the same position as we are and have been, and we need to find some sort of conclusion to that. It's not, I don't have a great answer for you, Mary, but it's the best I can do.
Thanks, Brian. And it may be there are people here who want to take a more active part in doing what you've just said. If you do, people, write to us at hello@Root and Branch, and we will pass on your messages to Brian.
Okay.
So now, before I pass on to Rhiannon, who's going to give the formal thanks to Anna and Brian, to add to the amazing thanks and messages that you're sending in the chat, and we'll make sure that Anna and Brian see your messages. Brian just wants to say a few words. And Kevin, could you please at the same time show the next slide? Thank you.
So we have heard from Anna today share her story with us in this conversation. And if you would like to offer support to Anna in any way, she's opened up her WhatsApp and her email to you. Those are the details there. Don't fall over the couch to get a pen and paper, because we will be posting this video on the Root and Branch website. But if there's any way that you can feel that you can support Anna, whether it's through financially, whether it's through friendship, prayer, companionship, and just reaching out, then I know that she will appreciate that. So the WhatsApp number is there, and Anna's email is there for you as well. And I think that we all want to support Anna in any way that we possibly can.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you. Rhiannon, over to you.
Thank you. Oh, thank you, Anna. We salute your courage, your honesty, your willingness to share your extraordinary story with us. And thank you, Brian, for your insightful, thoughtful questions and observations. And Brian, you know that we acknowledge your story, which you generously shared with Root and Branch, with our community 3 years ago. We are so grateful. We are so grateful to you both for the rich, the warm, the frank discussion. And you've taken us to deep places where we've been examining our faith in the light, Anna, of your extraordinary story. Your story from your calling to religious life when you were a very young woman, 19, I think, 19, very young woman, following your calling to help, as you put it, the vulnerable and the needy, through the over-controlled, the cruelly isolated formation period, the continuation of this exhaustive regime, the deprivations. Brian, you noted them as extreme, unchristian, absolutely. And as Anna, you moved into different roles, to the horror which you described of the discipline, corporal penances, the self-questioning, again, your journey, the self-questioning and your time as a superior, when you found yourself examining the nature of the abusive relationships within the order. And you talked, I was very interested in this, you talked about your role during that period as an observer. It was very interesting. And that, that you were forbidden to approach lay people, I think you said, I found deeply, maybe especially shocking. And then also shocking, the shocking suicide of a sister. I keep thinking about her on the cusp of Mother Teresa's canonization. And you left, Anna, a vocation in of itself, as you say, Brian. It became increasingly clear to you that you had to. You said that you didn't know who you were, and that, Brian, resonated with you, and you sought psychological help. And Brian's last question to you, what would you say to your 19-year-old self? I was so interested in your response. You said, well, Anna, I'd have an experience of being vulnerable before entering. Absolutely. And I share, and I'm sure we all do, Angela from the chat's happiness that you're now free. And with Kevin from the chat, that you and Brian are great disciples of Christ. And you are indeed, as Donna also in the chat says, you are surrounded, both of you, by the love of us all. And finally, in his introduction, Kevin reminded us about the negative effects of being silenced. And we know, I guess we all know, perhaps from personal experience, that silencing occurs when we're diminished or ignored, when we're made to feel invisible or less than that. Oh, thank you from our hearts, Anna and Brian, for your parts in breaking the silence. And we thank you again, and we wish you, Anna and Brian, so many blessings for your work in telling these vital stories. And we wish you so many, many, many joyful days ahead. So thank you again. God bless you both.
Thank you so much.
Much. I'm now going to hand over to my colleague, Mary, who's going to tell us about some future events.
I am indeed, if Kevin could give us the slides. The question was, what can we do? I'm going to go through this very swiftly. You can see the words for yourself. This is women in the church. These are the headlines from the synod. It's a niche issue. Further study is needed. Rushing is not the way to promote women today. When the time is right. Okay, it's abuse in a different form, and we all know about it. Catholic women strike, you can see the logo in the bottom of the slide there, bottom right-hand corner. Catholic women strike is an opportunity for all of us to make our feelings and our thoughts known during Lent. Next slide, please, Kevin. Kate McElwee, the Executive Director of Women's Ordination Conference, who are backing the Catholic Women's Strike. You can see all the times for our meeting there below. Kate will join us to answer questions. Is this a way that you and I can say enough? Enough. I put down what I do for the church. I will not put anything in the plate. I will not do my service for Lent, and I will tell people why I cannot do it. So do come and join us on the 20th of February. Bring your ideas, come and listen. See if this is a way in which you feel you could contribute, because is anybody actually going to listen to us any other way? And Kevin, very quickly, please, the last slide, if we may.
Mhm.
If you can't wait for the 20th of February, and if you've been really moved by what you've heard tonight, as Mary Varley said, drop us a line, hello@rootandbranchsynod.org, and just say, I'm willing to start meeting and talking now. You see, we're a tiny core team. There's only a handful of us, and there's hundreds of us here tonight. So anybody who wants to step up a little, come and see how you can help carry this forwards. We'd love to hear from you. Just drop us a line and come on in. Thank you so much. Thank you, Kevin. Am I handing over to Kevin?
No, to Sue.
Thank you. My mistake.
Okay.
Thank you, Mary.
So,
We're reading this with thanks to Breda McStay, who provided this prayer. The gate of the year. As I said to the person who stood at the gate of the year, give me a light, that I may trace softly into the unknown. And they replied, go out into the darkness and put your hand in the hand of God. That shall be to you better than light, and safer than a known way. So I went forth, and finding the hand of God, trod gladly into the night, and God led me towards the hills. Amen.
Thank you, everybody, for being with us tonight. And safe days or nights wherever you're going now. Good night.
Do unmute yourselves and say good night. Thank you so
Bye-bye.
much for being with us.
Good night.
Bye, everyone.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
God bless everybody.
Bye.
God bless everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.